Welcome to L3, Lori's Leadership Lessons. I feel very strongly that your values and behaviors should be consistent both in your professional and personal life. Who you are as an individual should be the same whether or not you're at home with your family and friends or at the workplace with your colleagues. That's why these topics should have multiple applications for you. This is episode 2, and the topic is accountability. Can you think of the last time that things didn't go right and the first thing that everyone did was start to play the blame game? They pointed fingers and started saying things like, "It's not my fault." Or was it a time when there was an opportunity or problem that needed to be solved and everyone else stood back and waited for someone else to take action? Maybe they just didn't think it was in their job description and therefore they were not going to be the ones to step up. If everyone took that kind of approach, nothing would get done. Lori's leadership lesson is to always step up and be accountable, be empowered. I'm very excited for this particular episode because I have a special guest with me. His name is John G. Miller. He's an accountability expert and he wrote the best-selling book, QBQ, The Question Behind the Question. John is going to share his perspective on accountability.
Lori, thank you for inviting me on your show. Glad to be here. The best approach in life is to ask those QBQs, the question behind the question, like, what can I do to be my best today? How can I contribute to the world? What can I do to make a difference? Otherwise, we're trying to change others and we're looking outwardly. I found that joy and happiness come from me looking in the mirror and saying, what can John do better today than he did yesterday? How can he improve himself as a person? That's personal accountability, and that's really what the QBQ is all about. And it's great fun to live that life. Personal accountability. Thanks, Lori.
One of my favorite quotes from QBQ is this: "Life is simply more satisfying and enjoyable for those who choose the way of personal accountability." John, thank you for joining us. If you recall from episode 1, I said that I would share some of my personal stories from volunteering because it's very near and dear to my heart. Well, this one relates to accountability. For several years now, I've gone back to my home state of North Carolina to volunteer with nursing homes and assisted living facilities. Well, a few years back, I reached out to an activities director at one of the nursing homes and I asked her if there was additional support that I could provide aside from what I was already doing. And she said almost without hesitation, it would be fantastic if we had some artwork on the walls. She said it was so drab all around the facility and the hallways, the common places, and the resident rooms. I had no idea how I was going to accomplish that task, but I told her, leave it to me, I'll make it happen. Well, I didn't have the funding to be able to purchase art for all of the rooms that they hoped to be able to brighten up. I certainly didn't know any artist, and I didn't have the time or talent to be able to do the paintings myself. So I thought about it, and about a month or so later, I came across a painting studio. This was closer to where I lived in Connecticut, and I went in and asked the owner if he happened to have any artwork that he would be willing to donate for the cause. I explained what it was, or if he would be willing to sell it to me at a discounted rate. He took me to a back room and he had stacks and stacks of artwork. Now, normally the students took all of their artwork home, but the instructors had theirs left behind, and those were the stacks that I was looking at. He told me that he would be willing to part with any of them to support my cause. After speaking with the owner of the painting studio, I loaded up my car as full as I could get it and only left enough room for myself, my kitty, and a small overnight bag. Then I drove 10 hours. I met with the activities director of the facility and we arranged to set it up like an art fair. We displayed all of the artwork throughout the room so residents could select one for each of their rooms. The ones that were left over were then displayed throughout the hallways and common areas. The residents were so happy. After everyone had made their selection, with the help of my parents, I hung every painting. One man was so excited to get his, he grabbed every resident, visitor, and staff member that passed by his room and asked them to come and see his new painting. The entire facility looked like an art gallery after it was all said and done. There was one woman that had tears in her eyes as she selected her picture. She said that her husband had passed away just a few months before. They'd been married for 50 years, and they would always make an annual trip to the beach. And she said that every time she looked at her beautiful picture of the beach, it would remind her of all the beautiful memories they created together. I shared those stories with the owner of the paint studio. He was so moved, he asked me if I could partner with him to find good homes for all of the other paintings he had. I told him I would be more than happy. So once again, I took accountability. For the next 2 years, I didn't just select and transport artwork. I gave joy to residents and staff of 3 assisted living facilities, 2 nursing homes, 3 group homes, and an orphanage. And I gave meaning and fulfillment to the owner of the paint studio. All of that started because I simply asked the question, what can I do to be supportive? And even though the request was based on something that I didn't have an expertise in, and I didn't have the connections or money to support it, I was still accountable and resourceful. And in the process, I found purpose, as I'd referenced in my previous episode, number 1. So I would encourage you the next time that you are coming across a problem to be solved, a challenge, an opportunity, or action to be taken, don't wait for someone else to do it. Step up and be accountable. Take ownership. Be empowered. Thank you for joining me for another episode of L3, Lori's Leadership Lessons. Please tune in for more coming soon.